when it comes to the software supply chain, we have a range of things, and we've also seen a number of breaches where a supermarket in Sweden discovered that they couldn't use their POS terminals because of some company in the US that they didn't even know about was part of their software supply chain and was a victim of a ransomware attack. So given that we're creating new capabilities out of lots of these building blocks, some of which are proprietary, some of which are open source, they can come from anywhere in the world, from big suppliers to smaller suppliers. What are some of the steps that organizations should be thinking about as they consider what makes up their supply chain?
I guess firstly is awareness. I personally feel that awareness starts with everything. So I think firstly is being aware about software supply chain or general supply chain issues and how it can impact your cybersecurity posture. The next is probably traditionally inventory management or taking stock of your software suppliers. In many cases, sometimes when you engage into third-party transactions, you may not actually holistically have a view of what are some of your software supply chain partners or your other supply chain partners. So I think next is then to take stock of basically all the different suppliers that you have. And then thirdly would be very much from a risk management perspective, evaluating your partners and having a methodology to make sure that they are cyber safe before you work with them, and if they are not, then what are some of the measures that you want to take in place? In terms of individual individual suppliers, there are some additional things that people talk about. And earlier on, you mentioned looking at the supermarket and the fair trade, for example, as part of the physical goods supply chain. I suppose the equivalent in the industry is basically the software equivalent, where they're looking at bill of material. So I think once you have done the initial steps of being aware, taking stock of your supply chain partners, and making sure that you have a risk assessment process to manage your partners and find a way to make sure that they're cyber safe before you work with them, then specific to each type of supplier, you may want to look into individual components. For example, in the area of software, it could be bill of material. There's also another big industry effort on making sure that your open source software is also secure. And this comes in the form of in the Linux Foundation, where they have a group looking at a secure open source software. So I think there are really quite a few different strands to start with and to look at. But essentially, it all starts with awareness and taking action through, managing and taking stock of your suppliers. And then the next level of details specific to each supplier.